Alright. Welcome back. Open hours. I was just getting a little lunch in, sorry. About not kicking it off at 4. 4 is a good time, but 4 seems like a bad time for the end of the day. I've got the camera way down close here. We did pull the HDMI port off. First one I've ever done of these. Pretty close to the same. I want to take a few minutes and talk about what I did to have it come off easier, and to make the job slightly easier. Let's get you guys a little more in the zone. If you stay right there, we shouldn't be bumping into each other too much. Being smart, I should have taken the heat sink off. However, if there's not the thermal pads, but it's kind of like a thermal paste, not normal heat, but for the RAM chips and that, sometimes on these they put, it's like a thermal paste that you have to get, like, I guess it would come in kind of like a tube, but with a thicker spout, kind of like flux. I don't have any of that, so I didn't want to take that off and break any of those bonds. I did wiggle it slightly. That shouldn't have disturbed anything too much. If it runs hot or anything, once we fire it back up, then we'll have to check on that later. I didn't pull the clamp off either. We're going to keep that on to keep it on. What I did do, though, to get the port off is I used hot air. It was a combination of soldering iron and hot air. And this is by no means is this the way, I'm saying 100% way that you do this. It all comes down to your experience with hot air and soldering. So let's get back to this here. I went ahead and put on the top side for the grounding part, like the ground tie down part of the old HDMI port, which is here. Basically these side pieces. Let's get something to point with. So where it mounted here, and then here and here, I went ahead and put a little solder on the top side, a little solder on the bottom side of the motherboard, and that was to add some of my solder on there where with lead, which melts at a higher temperature. I wanted to mix it up a little. After doing that, I did use the soldering iron to work some heat into the legs, the tie-down legs, keeping these kind of warm, just hitting them with a little bit of heat from the soldering iron, and I put a little solder across all the pins, all those tiny pins for, and if this will even focus, you may see it, all them tiny little pins. Of course not. Man, Logitech, your focus is crazy on stuff. Anyhow, there's a bunch of tiny little pins there. You can probably see a solder blob. Tiny pins are there. When it was on the board, I ran a little solder across the top. This is the broken port. I don't know if you can see into that port. Kinda, sorta. Let's check up here. Yeah, I showed it before, but yeah, that's a little busted up. It was bent, so it took a fall, hit the floor. There's plastic pins here that melted off. So after working heat into the legs, I then got the hot air out and started moving the hot air gun from side to side. Like when the port was on there, I moved the hot air gun from side to side, just back and forth, heating that up. And once that solder started to break loose, get to a melting temperature, and then I kept it on the back, going side to side, holding on to the port with a set of pliers, and it lifted off easily. And then you just do a little bit of cleanup. I do like solder wick. It works, but it doesn't always work for me. I don't know if that comes down to a brand thing or if it comes down to what. Some works better than others. This worked. What I like to do though is I take and put flux on the area that I'm going to clean up. Flux makes solder run where it's supposed to, but when cleaning the area up, I will put down some flux, put down the solder wick, and then lightly move this over the area to clean that old solder off there. We have it fairly clean from solder. We're going to go ahead and clean that melted flux off of there. Okay, sorry I muted there. I'm going to have a couple pries. Yeah, I did mute it. Okay. Alright, so it's not going to be a super interesting view today, but while we're here, let's go ahead and get this cleaned up. We're going to use our little rinky-dink bottle of alcohol. We're going to have to fill it again soon. I much prefer this to spilling the big bottle, and I don't have an alcohol dispenser. Oh no, I like those. Another potential problem with this repair, okay, is whenever this particular console itself fell and the HDMI port was, flexed and bent out of shape, it lifted one of the it didn't lift the whole thing, it just lifted the edge of one of the pads where it ties itself down. We're going to go ahead and make sure it's inserted through the board and solder that one from the other side and let the solder flow through, and then maybe just hit it with a little light heat at the top. The more heat for longer that you put onto a board, the chances are you're going to burn something. So that you definitely don't want to do. If you do that, that's where you're going to get into buying a new board for people. So not advisable. Okay. A little more alcohol. Let's keep cleaning this off, getting that old flux off of there. That stuff is sticky. If you've never worked with flux when doing soldering, probably after the first or second time you do and you end up with it all over your fingers, you'll wear gloves. And I even actually have a hole in this glove now, so that's what happens when you're working around sharp metal stuff. Look at that flux coming up, if you can see it. Yuck. This is just, I don't have the official IPA, quote unquote IPA. This is 97%, not 99. So isopropyl rubbing alcohol, which I guess is the same thing as IPA, but it's not as high a percentage. So how is everybody doing out there? Whether you see this in the future or see this today. Leave some comments. Is there something anybody wants fixed? If you got it, bring it in. Get the word out there. We'll try and fix viewer stuff on the stream. I actually have fixed, allegedly I've fixed one viewer's thing on stream. I don't know, I think maybe a few other people have caught videos when they were actual video and not a live stream. I think they caught them later, at a later date, after I'd fixed their thing, to see how I did it. I know a friend of mine watched how I fixed his computer and what I did, because I did document it over the course of a couple live streams. So the only scary part of this repair here, whew, okay, now we're talking. Now we're getting to get all this flux off of here. Yuck. We've still got some there. We'll go ahead and clean that as well. The only, as I was saying, the only scary part of this repair is that I don't have a micro soldering tip. The smallest tip that I have is this tip here, if that helps. And I'll give you some frame of reference. And we're soldering pins that are about half the size of that tip. So we're going to do the best we can to get it soldered down, and then we'll clean off the solder later. And that is my hope. With the way this port was bent, the back cage being bent on it from the HDMI port being shoved in, that made it, I hate how that board swims at certain colors, it made it hard to get the soldering iron in there to get solder on some of the pins, so we just relied on hot air. Let's do a time check here. 4:17, it's getting to the point where we've got to go. But not yet. Alas, not yet. Alright, we're going to put this through, and then we're going to find something to prop it up on temporarily. What can we put it up on? We've got mouse pads over here. That should do us some kind of justice. Alright, we're away from the mouse pad there. Kind of, sort of. I don't know your number. I don't know what you want. You're probably calling with no good purpose in mind. Well, I wish you could see the size of those pins. They're so hard to see. Look at the size of those. They blend together. That looks like a solid thing across the back right here. If it does, yeah, it isn't. No, that's a bunch of little tiny pins. Let's check our fitment. We have 2 plastic pins that have to go through the board as well. And then these that have to go in. Okay, we have one pin's a little tight, which that tells me there's still a little solder left here. We're going to ramp up the temp of our iron and just stick it in the hole to clean that out a little. It looks like it needs it from the bottom. We'll pull a little bit of that, so we'll clean the iron off and then pull a little bit of that solder out with the iron. Something that you want to be very gentle with. It's you can rip those pads up easier than you think. Okay. Oh, one thing I hate, waiting on parts. Waiting on parts. But it happens. And it was this one here, the back, yeah. So we're going to go ahead and just clean our iron off again. Nice and shiny. Let's go ahead and hit this hole quick to pull a little solder out. We'll do them all, being careful. Okay. And a second time there, let's check the top of it, just to be safe. It does look alright, but we're going to go ahead and hit it quick. Alright, there we go. Iron back down to not burn our tip, and let's check our fitment of our HDMI port again to see how it looks. Okay, right in that time. This is the important part. This is where you want to have that port nice and flat. What I'm going to do is anchor the back down first, and then once it's down, I'm going to push the front down, try and hold it down square. Do I have a clamp that will work for this? No. Nothing easily that won't get in the way and get burnt by a soldering iron. Okay. That being said, let's go ahead and put some solder on the back to get it connected there. Making sure that our pins are touching. They are. Alright, those are cleaned off. If we were going to put solder on them, we don't need much. They are slightly tinned, but there's not much there, so I'm going to go with that, and then we will add the solder later for the tinning. And this is where having a microscope comes in handy, because you're not flipping or rotating a piece. I want to actually grab the flashlight and see. Nice and bright. All the pins are sitting very flat against the board. We will go back through and check them later with with tweezers to make sure each one is in fact connected. Okay, we had a dust particle there. I thought it was a piece of solder. Like, I didn't even attempt to solder this one yet. How is it getting blobs of solder on there? Alright. Let's anchor the back down. Get some solder on it. Wherever the solder... There it is, right in front of me. Huh. Duh, let's turn the iron up. No wonder it's not melting this stuff. That's another thing about having a hot air station. You turn it up and you wait a few seconds. That was at 100 degrees. It's now over 400 ready. You know, it's ready to start melting solder. So, you turn it back down, the temp falls off pretty quick. We're at almost up at 480. Let's go ahead and put the iron on. We're going to melt a little bit of solder here. Get out of there. Having this heat, excuse me there, having this heat sink off would be ideal right now, and very helpful to what we're attempting. Alright, we're going to go ahead and heat that up again quick and press this side down to make sure. Alright, that's fairly flat and down. We're going to do the reverse side. I know you can't really even see what I'm doing. I'm going to get a closer camera. Eventually one day I hope to have a microscope so you can see this with the camera, so you can see this small stuff that, whenever it's a soldering job like this. Till then, I plan on using my mirrorless camera with the best zoom lens that I got to get you in close and just manually focus it. That's the best plan that I have to accomplish this. So we're going to go ahead and get in here. We need to hold that there to get some heat to it and start applying solder. Alright, we got some heat there. Let's go ahead and we're going to check our port. It is back. Alright, that should be what's the term? Cold enough that moving it around isn't going to hurt it any. Alright, we're going to go ahead and solder the front two, and then we got to get to those back pins. Those back pins, like I said, are the nightmare part of this for me. There's nowhere really to route that cable that's good. And this is the pad that suffered. Okay, that's down. We're going to flip it over and take a look at the bottom. Apply some solder to the bottom side. Even though it's good, I'm going to add a little more just to give it that little bit extra. And we can get in right on it from this side, so why not, right? Alright, that port is sitting nice and square compared to the other one, which was all twisted sideways. Boy, it'd be really nice to get this reassembled and tested today. However, you can only do so much. Right now, I am going to go for this side. Alright, that is on. And then this side as well. Hot. Whoo! Alright, here is the scary part. Connecting all of those pins on the back side of the HDMI port. Wow, there's a lot of room when the port isn't shoved backwards. It might not be as bad as I thought. Alright. Let's get the solder going where it needs to go. Let's hot air, solder. Don't move the pin. Now I gotta check that. they're all where they need to be. We're just going to go ahead and be careful with it. And then we're putting a lot on and then cleaning it back off with some soldering wick. I'm going to go through and check. This few in the end, because of the leg that ties it down, are a little tough to get to. Let's go in with some solder wick. First we're going to touch all those with our iron. And this is where a micro pencil comes in handy. Like I said, micro soldering tools are necessary for some jobs. Others you can get away with not having them, but you have to be prepared if you mess it up. And in this case, to buy these people a new Xbox, which I don't want to do. But might I add, I don't want to do that. But we're going to put a little flux on here to aid our solder wick in pulling the blobs back off, and then we'll take a look at this. Or you pull the solder back off a little. Gosh, there's nowhere to put this. Nowhere to put this. Did we not get flux there? Okay, now I know there's flux there. That one-handed stuff doesn't always work. Let's take it off at that point. Alright. Let's take our iron, pull some of that back off. No, we need the the magnifying glass. I don't have a microscope. On all those pins, I've got one little bridge that needs removed. I'm going to go and try and hit it with our soldering iron. Oh, curse this. Curse this heatsink. Let's run our gun up. We're going to hit it with a little hot air and call it done. We'll try and reassemble. 437, yeah, I don't think that's happening today. I wanted to, I really did. We're going to burn some flux off, melt that solder nice and evenly. And let it run where it wants to. Alright. Fan up. Pour it down. If anything, I still have one little. I'm hoping I don't. And it is what, 38? Yeah, I won't get this together today. I'm going to take a closer look with my helping hands. Magnifying glass, as the other one's too big to get in there. And you know what? It doesn't look like a bridge. Actually, yes it does. Okay. We've got to get it off there. That means we got to pull one spot off. Right there. Oh, if I just killed it, I killed it. If I didn't, I didn't, and I got lucky. Alright, let's find out quickly. Soldering iron down. That looks pretty good, and like I said, by no means is this the way to do this. There are appropriate tools for doing this. Pins much smaller than this, you're not going to solder like with your eyes. Okay, yeah, it's not going to happen. Let's do that. And just cause we're gonna muck about for a few moments, I don't have a whole lot of time, but do these have to go in the case to test this stuff? See? I do not know. I should know these things, correct? Yes, no? there's that. We have our metal clip that just seems all wrong. How is our HDMI, our USB port not going down? What is preventing? Oh, right. The little plastic bits, those pins that pop through. There's one, and there's one, and I believe there were no others. All of our ports are indeed lined up. Much better. Much better. Got one. Get our Torx, our cup. What time is it? 4:41. We've got 4 minutes here, people. We're going to go as far as possible in 4 minutes. I don't know how far that is, but Easter Sunday. We haven't fully figured it out what we're doing about the Easter show, Tim and myself, but something is going to go on. Whether it's going to be Saturday night or Sunday night, unknown. But I wouldn't expect anything if you are a viewer of the live stream or listener to the audio version of the podcast. The podcast definitely isn't going to be out Easter night. Of course, you never know. You never can tell these days. Alright, let's turn temps down, turn that fan down. Soldering iron is cold down. We got that. So you go there, and you go there, and the rest of you fits here. Okay. Put a few black screws in. Actually, quite a few. Watch, there's something, I'm probably like some massive part that I just skipped over. Alright, off. We'll let that cool down, then I'll kill the back power. And there's 4 of those left. Very good. Okay, that. What am I missing here? There's probably a certain order to this that I'm just not gonna understand. No way, no how. Let's go with the pin missing one. And then we know this was in there in an impossible way. Let's go ahead and put that back. That. The ROM is another factor. Let's pick that back up. Move it. Wow. Time is it? 44. 1 minute. Alright, let's get our pins lined up so we know that this thing is where it is supposed to be. I'm guessing that is it. We have a power supply to plug in, which looks like that's going to be tricky if we do this. Is it? Okay, there goes that. I don't know if it'll rotate into place. I hope that it is going to fit. Something is not right. Oh. Okay. No way. Okay. All about that. Luck right at the end. Some luck right at the end here, people. That's all we needed. Just a little bit of... Is it going to go my way? Ah. Probably not. And this came out of that, correct? Wait a minute. No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me think about this. All those screws came out from another point. There was nothing there. That's impossible. Those are through hole. Alright. Sadly, it's come to an end for the day. I thought for sure there was something tying that stuff down. It can only be that. I guess it is. That doesn't seem doable though, does it? Honestly? Anybody? What am I missing here? Please tell me. The other metal, the metal lid, right? Yes. Yes. You simpleton. Alright. Ah. Okay, that makes more sense rather than none. Is that really? Okay, that goes together. No screws. That will hold that together. Okay, Xbox One S model such and such. Semi put together. Yeah, alright. Let's wrap it up now. Have a good weekend, people. Thank you for watching. Do appreciate it. I may be redoing this. At least the assembly part of it. Hey, you come back here. So, have a good weekend, good Easter if you celebrate that. I'm sure a lot of people do. Most don't. Or no, some don't. Most do, I think, would be the way to say that. And have a good evening, good morning, good afternoon. It is one of those, wherever you are. And the rest I'm leaving for Monday. Thank you for watching. I have to get out of here. We went for it. We failed for today. Tune back in Monday. Check back Saturday, Sunday for the podcast. I will make a post about it when it is time. See you then.